Hello, everybody. First off, I want to say thank you to my viewer who commented on my last video. I see you. I'm thankful for your viewership. Thank you so much. So anyways, today's vlog I want to talk about how we live in an extremely twisted system. I think we kind of know this. I think most people know this. But I'll talk a little bit more about what exactly the system is and how is it twisted. Okay, so I talked about silent weapons for quiet wars before, but this time I'm going to talk about from page 10 called talks about energy. Well, first I have to back up to page 9, sorry. I'll talk about the theoretical introduction. It gives a quote by Mayer Amschel Rothschild. Actually, I think that it might be a misquote. I think, because I've seen it, the same quote attributed to one of his sons, Nathan Rothschild, but I'm not sure. But it is, "Give me control over a nation's currency, and I care not who makes its laws." End quote. And then the document goes on to say, "Today's silent weapons technology is an outgrowth of a simple idea discovered, succinctly expressed, and effectively applied by the quoted Mayer Amschel Rothschild. Mr. Rothschild discovered the missing passive component of economic theory known as economic inductance. He, of course, did not think of his discovery in the 20th century in these 20th century terms, and to be sure, mathematical analysis had to wait for the second industrial revolution, the rise of the theory of mechanics and electronics, and finally the invention of the electronic computer before it could be effectively applied in the control of the world economy." Now we get to the important part here, which I really want to talk about, is general energy concepts. In the study of energy systems, there always appear three elementary concepts. These are potential energy, kinetic energy, and energy dissipation. And corresponding to these concepts, there are three idealized, essentially pure physical counterparts called passive components. 1. In the science of physical mechanics, the phenomenon of potential energy is associated with a physical property called elasticity or stiffness, and it can be represented by a stretched spring. So if you imagine a spring is like bouncy and stretchy, but if you stretch a spring out, it wants to go back together. So you stretch it out, it really wants to pull back together. That's potential energy. I think a lot of us have potential energy, and that's where we feel really frustrated. I know I do, because we're like, I have all these ideas, I have all this energy, I want to do things. Why I can't channel it, I can't put it into anything, or if I try and put it into things, people don't support it, or if I try and put it into things, it's excuse my language, it's a scam, and it's BS, and it kills a lot of the energy. But that's potential energy. In electronic science, potential energy is stored in a capacitor instead of a spring. This property is called capacitance instead of elasticity or stiffness. 2. In the science of physical mechanics, the phenomenon of kinetic energy is associated with a physical property called inertia or mass, and can be represented by a mass or a flywheel in motion. I think of kinetic energy is obviously motion. So we all think about somebody has motion, somebody has movement. If you say excuse my language, like the ghetto phrase I'm going to use here, but if you say that nigga has motion, or like, you wonder, I saw this one clip, is like, you wonder, it's this black guy, he's like, you wonder why you, he's like, lock in, fuck nigga, you wonder why you got no motion, it's because you won't lock in. I don't know why this stuff's funny, but it kind of is. But it's a translation of the same concept of movement, right? When we see somebody doing something, we notice that because it's kinetic energy. It's the expression of potential energy. In electronic science, kinetic energy is stored in an inductor in a magnetic field instead of a mass. This property is called inductance instead of inertia. 3. In the science of physical mechanics, the phenomenon of energy dissipation is associated with a physical property called friction or resistance, and can be represented by a dashpot or other device which converts system energy into heat. This one's really interesting too. I mean, they're all interesting. So the first one, I kind of skipped this example, but the first one is potential energy. I would actually kind of equate that in the social sphere to like the social parlance of our day today in terms of aura. You know, they say people, oh, he has aura, or oh, this person has aura. So you have aura, like that's like a potential energy. If you see somebody who has, quote, aura, you know, they look in some way kind of like attractive, like you just look at them and they have this look like they could do something. They look like they know what they're going to do, or they know what to do, or something like this. And then they can, express it in terms of motion. They can do something. Oh, he has motion. He's got aura and motion. Now the third one is friction or resistance. I would classify this as aura loss, chopped. There's one more that I'm forgetting the name of. Cooked, kind of like as well. But yeah, that would be just sort of like what that means is like, it looked like it was going good. It looked like it was gonna go good. Somebody's doing something, and then they do something silly, like their pants fall down, or they crash their bike if they're doing tricks on a bike, or something like this, is like, or maybe they get in trouble or whatever. There's some sort of friction that slows them down, resistance. They hit resistance and they sort of stop. Their energy sort of dissipates. That's what that one is. The third one is energy dissipation. In electronic science, dissipation of energy is performed by an element called either a resistor or conductor. The term resistor being the one generally used to express the concept of friction, and the term conductor being generally used to describe a more ideal device, e.g. wire, employed to convey electronic energy efficiently from one location to another. The property of a resistance or conductor is measured as either resistance or conductance reciprocals. In economics, these three energy concepts are associated with 1. Economic capacitance, capital, money, stock, inventory, investments in buildings and durables, etc. 2. Economic conductance, goods, production flow coefficients. 3. Economic inductance, services, the influence of the population of industry on output. All the mathematical theory developed in the study of one energy system, e.g. mechanics, electronics, etc., can be immediately applied in the study of any other energy system, e.g. economics. Mr. Rothschild's energy discovery. What Mr. Rothschild had discovered was the basic principle of power, influence, and control over people as applied to economics. That principle is, quote, when you assume the appearance of power, people soon give it to you, end quote. Now, I will just cut in here and say that is evil. That is pure evil. It's essentially deception. This is like the devil's specialty. This is what the devil basically is the liar, the accuser, the deceiver, the slanderer, the murderer. And this is what Jews do. This is what they imitate. This is what, Mayer Amschel Bauer, who became Mayer Amschel Rothschild, who founded the banking system, his 5 sons, founded the 5 major banks in the different areas of Europe, and that's the entire system. That's the entire fake system that we're under today, the debt-based system that we're under today. It's all deception, the entire thing. Now, this quote gets to the heart of it, where it says, what Mr. Rothschild had discovered was the basic principle of power, influence, and control over people as applied to economics. That principle is, quote, when you assume the appearance of power, people soon give it to you, end quote. And we get some flavor of this in our own lives all the time, because people tell you, fake it till you make it. People tell you, I don't know, how keep a poker face or something like this. And so you get into these power games, basically. And the whole thing, and I'll just cut straight to the point, all power comes from God. God gives all power. All comes from Him. So all of this entire system, what they're doing is they're trying to harvest energy, essentially, through control. And it's very sophisticated how they're doing it. Like, it's freaky how sophisticated it is. Like, basically they have us by the balls. We lost before we were born. Like, nobody alive today, well, there may be some people alive today, but they would be like in their 90s and 100 years, centenarians or whatever, 100 plus. They were kind of born outside of the system. We're all born in it, because it was invented in the last half decade of the 40s. It was invented during World War II and then immediately after. And like this document that I'm reading from, it describes the principles that everything is operating under, but it's much more sophisticated now. Like, dude, they got us by the balls. Like, basically it's over. It never began. Like, that's basically the sentiment. For like 99, 98, 99.9% of what people say, it's kind of, a lot of it's just delusion. Like, they have us by the balls, dude. Like, they have us, seriously. The things that are real in life, that are outside of this, are things that are on a spiritual level, essentially. That's like the only way, basically, to get out of this. Like, Gaddafi, I think, tried to start his own bank. They killed him in Libya. The fake economics is it's the heart of the entire fake system. Okay, so Mr. Rothschild had discovered that currency or deposit loans had the required appearance of power that could be used to induce people in inductance, with people corresponding to a magnetic field, into surrendering their real wealth in exchange for a promise of greater wealth instead of real compensation. They would put up real collateral in exchange for a loan of promissory notes. Mr. Rothschild found that he could issue more notes than he had backing for, so long as he had someone else's stock of gold as a persuader to show to his customers. Mr. Rothschild loaned his promissory notes to individuals and to governments. These would create overconfidence. Then he would make money scarce, tighten control of the system, and collect the collateral through the obligation of contracts. The cycle was then repeated. These pressures could be used to ignite a war. Then he would control the availability of currency to determine who would win the war. That government which agreed to give him control of its economic system got his support. Collection of debts was guaranteed by economic aid to the enemy of the debtor. The profit derived from this economic methodology made Mr. Rothschild all the more wealthy and all the more able to extend his wealth. He found that the public greed would allow currency to be printed by government order beyond the limits, inflation, of backing in precious metal or the production of goods and services, gross national product, GNP. Yeah, all wars are bankers' wars. I don't know if people knew that. Like every time there's a war, it's bank. The bank is behind it. That's the real enemy, you know. Yeah. Apparent capital as paper, quote, paper inductor. Apparent capital as paper, quote, paper, end quote, inductor. In this structure, credit presented as a pure circuit element called, quote, currency, end quote, has the appearance of capital, but is in fact negative capital. Hence, it has the appearance of service, but is in fact indebtedness or debt. It is therefore an economic inductance instead of an economic capacitance, and if balanced in no other way, will be balanced by the negation of population, war, or genocide. The total goods and services represents real capital called the gross national product, and currency may be printed up to this level and still represent economic capacitance. But currency printed beyond this level is subtractive. Represents the introduction of economic inductance and constitutes notes of indebtedness. War is therefore the balancing of the system by killing the true creditors, the public, which we have taught to exchange true value for inflated currency, and falling back on whatever is left of the resources of nature and the regeneration of those resources. Mr. Rothschild had discovered that currency gave him the power to rearrange the economic structure to his own advantage, to shift economic inductance to those economic positions which would encourage the greatest economic instability and oscillation. The final key to economic control had to wait until there was sufficient data and high-speed computing equipment to keep close watch on the economic oscillations created by price shocking and excess paper energy credits, paper inductance / inflation. And then it goes on to talk about how they did this system shocking and how they measured the reverberations. And essentially what they did was that they measured how people reacted. So they started harvesting all kind of data. You know, we hear about this all the time about privacy and about data, and I think a lot of people are honestly really stupid. I'm not trying to be mean, but they think that their personal data is what these giant corporations are after. They think that them personally, as an individual, as one person, they think that their private data is what people, these giant corporations, governments, and everything, banks are after. Not really. They're after the mass of people. And this is something I learned in university that, you know, I was totally ignorant of, because I kind of had a little bit of the same idea. I didn't think that particularly, but I didn't understand that you can just look at a sample of a population, if it's representative, that's the key. It has to be a representative sample. If you take a representative sample of a population, you can extend that to the entire population, roughly. You will get basically the same results as you would get in the entire population statistically. This is really important. This is something people don't understand, and this is like the basis for most arguments online that has been going on for like 20 or 30 years, is retards, excuse my language, but they just don't understand this about individual versus group behavior. And that's like the key. That's really the key. So people, like, especially women, they're like, stupid people and women are really swayed by anecdotes, personal, emotional anecdotes about a single person. Yeah, well, obviously I said it twice, but but like personal anecdotes really sway women and minorities or whatever. And they think, and children, young people too, they think that there's danger everywhere if they hear about like murderers or kidnappings or something. They walk outside and then they're afraid, right? But it's about statistics, right? So like they walk outside and they're afraid that they're gonna get kidnapped, but statistically it's like super unlikely. But where was I going with all that? Oh, okay. So they harvest all this data on us. They did this, back when this came out in the 50s and so on, late 40s, 50s. And they were looking at like telephone records. They were looking at like bank statements, spending habits, credit card statements. They were harvesting all of that data that they could get at the time. They were doing like consumer surveys, and they were looking at like purchasing patterns. And they were testing that after they did something to shock the system, some big event or raising the price of one commodity by a ton, they would look at the reverberations. They hit the system, they would look at how did it bounce after that. It's like throwing a rock into a puddle. They would throw the rock into the puddle and they'd look at the splash and the ripples. And they were just measuring that. And basically, obviously they're doing that with humans. The puddle is a bunch of humans. Our responses, our emotions, everything, our buying habits and everything. And they would look at, when they put a stressor onto the system, what happened to people's habits? Did it break the system or did people absorb it? And so people would go into some sort of a pattern, like a coping pattern, like a buying. They found that like smoking went up, drinking went up, things like this would happen. And basically they learned over time through doing this stuff how to work the system, how to control the system, how to control the masses of people. And so it's not really about you or me in particular. It's not really, and people think that, but a lot of that's just not true. It's just not really about you as an individual. We get fed all this stuff that we're unique, that we're special, and we like to think that because, as children, we can only really see the world that way through our own eyes and everything. But as you get older, you realize that, well, actually, everything that I've thought, and by the way, you might not know this yet, but everything that I've thought, somebody else has pretty much thought of it before. When I was growing up, I used to think that I had really unique thoughts and everything, and that no one really knew exactly what I was thinking, and no one had really experienced exactly what I was experiencing. And that may be true to like a very fine degree, to where you get to my personal experience. But if you start reading as you grow up, if you start, watching a lot of videos and documentaries and everything, and you start to get a sample of everything, you realize that basically everything has been thought of. And at this point, everything has been thought of to such a degree that everything that you think and will do is basically thought of. It's planned, essentially, in kind of coarse detail, or increasingly fine detail, but basically more and more. Like you're not really doing things that are very unique. And people as a whole, I know people get offended by talking about them personally and about themselves and what they can and can't do and will and won't do, because people really feel a strong sense of fighting against that. But people as a mass are really patterned, and so they just mess with the pattern. They're just controlling the pattern. That's the whole system. That's how come it's so twisted. The system is really twisted because they basically figured out how to control the entire system, and now we're basically slaves. We're born into it. And I know it sounds crazy, but that's the reality. That's always like, that's kind of like the hardest part, is that it kind of, we develop some sort of delusion at some point where we feel like we're not in the reality, and we get all this media given to us, like slop and whatever, and some of it's actually really good, but it's about like the main character, and so we feel like the main character. We feel like we're outside of all of this somewhat. A lot of it's meant to be like that because that's what resonates and sells to a lot of people. Because there's the whole archetype thing where we see ourselves as certain characters within media, or we see like traits or attributes of certain characters that we like and want to embody, or whatever, both good and bad, sort of, but or more like they speak to us, but yes, it's about the mass of people. Alrighty, and yeah, we kind of, what's happening or what's going on to people is that they kind of go into like a somewhat of an alternate reality, and it's freaky. Honestly, it really is freaky, and they don't care about that. They don't care. As long as you're still going to work, as long as you're still paying taxes, as long as you're still, part of the group, and there's, they still have the control. They don't care. Oh, that's the other point I wanted to make. Why it's such a twisted system. So we, like me personally, and I think a lot of people, maybe not everybody, but we have this idea or thinking that we should do good to other people. We should, generally, or for the most part, try to do good to other people. If they do something bad to us, we're kind of entitled to have a reaction or get angry or whatever because it's unjust. These people who set up this system, they don't give a fuck about you. Excuse my language. They don't care. They don't even think of us in like the same category. Like, we're not humans to them. We don't even have souls to a lot of Jews. Like, in their worldview of us, they don't think the Goyim have like the same souls on the same level. You can see this in the stuff they say, and rabbis say this literal. It's written into some of their teachings in that, and there's a lot of smokescreen and obfuscation about this fact. But it's in there. It's like they don't even think that we have souls on the same level. That's why they have the term Goyim for us. It means cattle, and it's like doesn't everybody know this by now? But I think a lot of people are sort of waking up to this. But it's because they see us as basically like cattle. You might think like, why don't they kill us all, or whatever. They're just trying to like control us. Like if we were to have a farm with cows on it, and we herd them, and whatever, and they go off to the slaughterhouse, and eventually same deal. The sick ones we try and get rid of or whatever, same deal. People have energy, right? And there's something going on where it's got to do with the energy and managing the herd, essentially. And this is the same as the book Animal Farm, right? I haven't actually read that book. I'm trying to find it, but I know that's the plot behind it. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, we're screwed, and that's the twisted system that we live in. We're essentially screwed. Like, I don't really know how else to put it. Like, I'm really still kind of, I don't know, waking up or coming around to or wrestling with this. But like in my own life, like, man, I've tried to do so much, and a lot of it just feels like it's nothing. It feels like you get nothing out of it, and it just makes you feel bad, right? Because especially if you're trying to do good, you know what I mean? But the whole system is designed to get worse. Things are not going to get better. Things are not planned to get better. You know, people are putting up resistance, but people don't understand the system. The only way to get out of the system, or to really redo the system or whatever, would be to have a clash with the banks. And there is a quote by Lord Acton, I think, that sooner or later the people are going to have a reckoning with the banks. That's the heart of the fake system. And Andrew Jackson killed the bank in 1835, and then Woodrow Wilson screwed it up in 1913 and signed the Federal Reserve Act into law. And yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. That's the heart of it, anyway. But from there, it only gets worse. Like, these things only get worse, and they're actually prophesied to get worse. I'm not really trying to be a big downer here, but everything in the Bible comes true. Everything written in prophecy in the Bible will come true. And in there, we know about the mark of the beast. And in the plan, in the day tapes, it is that you will not be able to buy or sell if you want to be outside of the system. So eventually there will be some sort of not being able to buy or sell thing that's coming. Now, I've heard that this actually happened in Nero's time, and maybe the mark of the beast was something back then, but I mean, all this stuff is prophesied in the Bible, and things are not prophesied to get better in the Bible. I mean, it gets better for the people that pick up their cross and follow Jesus, but for all the people who try to save their life here on earth by hoarding wealth or hoarding things, it's like it's dust to dust here. It's not going to get better on earth, you know. And that's really a hard thing, because we're all trained when we're kids that we're owed so much, you know. When we're kids, we're owed so much because that's all the media and that's how people talk, and we listen to women all the time, and women cannot handle these hard facts. They're literally coping all the time, and they just don't understand anything, seemingly. I'm not trying to be mean, but that's who we're kind of told that is our authority figures, because men and women are supposed to be equal, and all our school teachers are women for the most part. And it's like, no, none of that stuff's true. Like, these are the real facts. Like, the system is extremely twisted. It's designed that way. It's not designed in your benefit. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I'm kind of really ranting here. But anyways, I just wanted to clarify those points because I think they're just of utmost importance. And just for the record, there is a theoretical way to reform the banking system. I have it written out as 4 steps, but you can find it in the documentary The Money Masters. But yeah, I don't know if that's ever going to happen. Like, that, you would literally have to fight like basically every nation's army in order to get that to happen. Like, that is, I don't know, like, that's like like there would be like a nuclear war before that would happen, because that is the heart of the system, dude. It's the banking system. And it's all fake. I don't know what else to do but laugh. But anyway, so it is a form of slavery. We're all in it. But the only real freedom And personally, I don't even really think freedom exists in the way that we really are taught that it exists. But I think that the only real, I think you either are a slave to God or you're a slave to sin. That's really how I think. Like, I don't think there's like this like sort of freedom type of thing that people kind of think of when they say freedom. Like, if you really chop into the word, but I think that real freedom is worshiping God, because when people talk about freedom, they think about like energy, like that their energy can just go and do whatever they want, but or can be put into whatever they want and all of this. And it gets into weird libertarian stuff, which libertarianism is like easily defeated. I think the non-aggression principle doesn't make any sense. But you can watch debates with Jay Dyer over with libertarians. But anyway, I don't really want to get into all that. But I think that all energy comes from God. So that's freedom is worshiping God and being with God. Okay, so other updates. My cat is inside with me now because he was fighting other cats outside. So I'm keeping him inside now. I don't really want him to keep fighting all these other cats. I kind of have to try and think of another solution. I might try something else where I change his cat door to a different window that's facing away from the neighbor's house, because the neighbor has 6 cats. And they're all males, and my cat's a male, so they really fight a lot. I had an argument with my brother today, and it was kind of it didn't bother me too much, but the part that bothers me is just how much he tries to manipulate in arguments, and make it seem like he's a victim. And I won't let him manipulate, but he continually does it automatically. Like, it's automatic to him. And his position is that I'm being mean to him, basically. And he acts victimized, but I won't allow that. And like, the situation is that I was trying to help my mom because she won't fill out a housing application because she's homeless, but she's staying at my aunt and uncle's house while they're away. But she will never figure out what she's going to go do. And it's really stressful. Like, I know it's personal information and family information and all that, but she would get mad and my brother would get mad if they found out I was talking about this, but I kind of don't care, because their solution to everything is to do nothing and hide everything. And that doesn't freaking work. That does not work. Like, that's trauma, shame, that's shame, guilt, and trauma. Like, that's what those things are. But the real world still keeps moving on, and like, so in the summer's coming, and she'll still have nowhere to go. So she'll eventually like go try and sleep in a tent or sleep in a car or sleep in a garage or something. And it's like, that is not a good solution. Like, I have to do something. I have to try and help. And so I was trying to get her to phone the line, because they have one for like elders or whatever for housing assistance. And I was waiting. I told her like years ago to call it, and I was telling her, like, reminding her every few months, and basically she just lies. Like, she just says she'll do it and she doesn't do it. And then if I question her about it later on, she'll make up some kind of excuse, and then I'll say, well, you lied. You said you were going to do it. And in her mind, she's not lying. And she has like an excuse how it's not a lie. And I'm like, I'm so over this, I'm so tired of like all this stuff, because it actually affects everybody. Like, it's not just her, doing her own thing, quote unquote. It's like, that stresses me out. I don't want my mom to be homeless. Like, that's horrible. And it stresses out everybody else in the family too, but it's like nobody knows how to deal with it. So I will go and deal with it directly, or as direct as I can. And also I'll pray for help too, because with these things, it's like, yeah, you really do need God's help for these kind of issues. And so my brother calls me and I tell him that I'm trying to like help her call this line, and he's just saying like stupid things. And I said, and he's not just saying stupid things that are just like inconsequential. He's saying stupid things that actually detract and make it harder to do this. Like essentially he's giving bad advice. And I just have to say, I said to him, like, that's a stupid thing to say. Like, just take it back. Don't say that. And he got so mad. He gets so mad about that stuff. But I care a little bit, but in light of like the actual situation, I don't care that much, because if it's just all about feelings and everything, and he keeps saying like, oh, the way you're saying it, the way you're saying it, the way you're saying it is rude, the way you're saying it is like an asshole, the way you're saying it is like a jerk. I'm like, I have to help. Like, I'm just trying to help. And I'm not gonna like sugarcoat it, or I'm not gonna make it, speak to you like you're a kindergartner when you're saying stupid things that are actually making it harder to do this. And so like I'm telling them straight up, like I have to, this is reality. Like, we have to live in reality. We can't just live in delusion. Like, that doesn't get anything done. And I have to like recount the situation too, and it gets frustrating because if I do that, then it's like it's fuel for him that he keeps making it more like I'm just being mean to him. I say like, well, I was trying to help 2 years ago. I was trying to help like months ago, and she's not doing it. She's lying. And he's making it seem like I'm just being mean. It's like, I'm not going to talk to you like you're a little kid. I'm not going to like say like, can I just make a slight criticism? Yeah, I don't really agree with that thing that you said, because, and yeah, maybe we could just, it's kind of problematic. I'm just really thinking about it, and like, fuck that shit, man. I'm so sick of that. That's like my entire last job, is like people talk like that all the time in Canada because they're scared. These people are all scared of hurting anybody's feelings because everybody's like a powder keg. It's like, bro, I'm trying to help here, so just yeah. But the thing that bugs me is that it's not just like I'm saying all these things. He's saying a bunch of stuff back that's really manipulative, and he does it automatically. And that's why I have to be like really firm about what I say. And also I have to call him out and say like, don't gaslight me, don't concern troll, don't do that stuff. He's like, where did you learn those words? And like, it doesn't matter where I learned them, that's what you're doing. But yeah, my family is extremely broken. I'm not proud of it. I don't think it's a good thing. I'm not saying it for sympathy points or pity or anything like that, but when it's like that, it's extremely toxic. But yeah, it's really tough. I just want to make that clear. It's like extremely difficult. It's super difficult to deal with. And I don't know why I kind of laugh, but it literally is. I don't even know how else to express that. But yeah, it's just like no support. If I try and do something that's good or that helps, that can help, it's like it gets attacked, and there's also no support for it. It's not just like, oh wow, okay, that's a good idea. Finally somebody's helping mom get her place. You know what? I hope it turns out and I hope it's great. It's not like that. It's like, here's why that could go wrong. Here's why you shouldn't do anything. Here's why. And it's just like extreme nitpicking, but I'm so used to that now. Like in Canada, anytime anyone tries to do anything, you get an army of nitpickers, dude. Like, what is up with these people? But I think we're all just trained that way. I think school trains us that to be like that. Why don't these people nitpick the banking system? But yeah, anyway, Sorry, I just think it's funny. Why are people like that? Why, dude? Why? So brutal. But yeah, anyway. Oh my goodness. Okay, but anyways, it's also it's also the fake veneer that bugs me that people have. There's like such a fakeness, like a veneer of like caution and everything. It's like, bro, fuck off. Our system's fucked. Excuse my language, but it's like I think people really want community and conversation and to be effective and to be efficient and to add and to be a part of things, but it's all within a broken ass system, dude. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to be like mean about it or cynical, but that's the way it really is. But yeah, and also I think like in my family, but also it's very common in Canada, it's not just my family, is people who can't handle reality or conflict because it's hard. It hurts. It hurts. People don't like when their heart starts pounding fast in conflict. They don't like when they feel like they're going to start crying. They don't like when they feel like they're going to blow up and start yelling. Some people actually kind of like that. But for the most part, people don't like the consequences of that stuff. But I think that healthy conflict is when we're working towards something that can, like, is a good thing, which I think, getting my mom a housing application filled out is a good thing. And I kept saying that to my brother over and over. I was like, I'm trying to help, You can't don't gaslight me, don't concern troll. I'm trying to help, don't tone police. I'm trying to help. I'm not being mean to you on purpose, but I'm just trying to help, I'm trying to do this. And he keeps saying like, oh, but there's a way you can say it, and you're just in a bad mood, and why are you doing this to me, and you're attacking me. And I'm telling him, like, you're not a victim here. Like, I'm trying to help. And by the way, my brother's like 7 years older than me. It's really tough. Like, it is very tough, And I think part of what's going on as well, I'm not trying to be mean here, but I think there's like breaks. I won't say all of that stuff. I was thinking in like the psychological terms, but I won't say all that stuff. I was just thinking about compartmentalization. But anyways, I think that happens to a lot of us because we have to deal with all of this stuff all the time, that we compartmentalize things. But anyways, I would say it's very difficult dealing with my family, but at the end of the conversation, we still say I love you, which is actually a huge deal. Like, that's a huge deal. It's a huge change from before. And thanks be to God for that. So, yeah. I kind of wonder what a healthy family would look like. I've wondered for a long time. And I think that's actually a good starting place instead of fighting about what is unhealthy in families. I think looking at what a healthy family looks like is actually a better starting place and more important, because then it's something to aim for rather than just fighting about what people don't like. And I think, honestly, a healthy family would be based upon prayer, based upon worship and service. So it would basically be faith would be the center of the family. I think that's really important. But yeah, anyway, and one thing I would say is that system we live in is extremely sophisticated, and I think a lot of people think they have it figured out, but that can even be incorrect too. And can be a huge hang up too, because pride can get involved and ego and so on. But yeah, it is extremely sophisticated. And it's likely that they've already won. I kind of talked about this already, but it always leaves the question, well, what do we do? What is there to do? And honestly, I think personally, in my opinion, I think the answer is to follow spiritual law. The Bible, Jesus. And I'm still finding out what exactly that means. But reading the Bible, reading the saints as well, I find is helpful, and praying. So I've been reading the beginning. I started at the beginning of the Bible, and now I'm in the book of 4th Kingdoms or 2nd Kings, and I'm trying to read through the whole thing. And I've read also, not the entire New Testament, but I've read, some of the Gospels. I've read a bit of the other parts, but I've read Revelation, but I'm also a very slow reader. But I like reading the Bible, and that helps. I think that's really important. And also prayer, asking the Holy Spirit for guidance, asking Jesus for help, praying for mercy to the Father Almighty, I think is really important. For humility, I think that's really important. Asking for humility, asking for faith, asking for increased faith. And I've been reading different saints. Like I read a bit of I've just started really. So I've read a little bit of Saint Basil, his letters, and I'm reading a bit of Saint Augustine on the Trinity and some of these things. And I'm trying to figure out, like, what does it look like? Like, what exactly would it look like to do good things in the world, like to use whatever I have to give, like use my energy, the God-given energy, to direct it toward God's will. And I'm reading in the Catechism, and I found something that kind of made a little bit of sense here. There's a lot of it is about take up your cross daily and stuff, but okay, here we go. So this part kind of helped. It wasn't like exact on what to do, but it was pretty good. It said, God's laws, which apply to human activities and determine and order them towards Him alone, impart the appropriate habit to those who act rightly, which is to will that which pleases the lawgiver, and to subject all our will to Him alone, and to will nothing apart from Him. This alone is to know how to love properly, and for this reason the Savior says, if you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love. So it's a little bit confusing, but in the beginning it says that to live the life that Christ came to give us, we must be willing to follow His commandments, which is the way of suffering love. Yeah. I would say with my family, it feels like suffering love. But, so it was saying God's laws, which apply to human activities and determine and order them towards Him alone, impart the appropriate habit to those who act rightly, which is to will that which pleases the lawgiver, and to subject all our will to Him alone, and to will nothing apart from Him. This alone is to know how to love properly, and for this reason the Savior says, if you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love. So it's kind of confusing, but I got a bit out of it, which is that our human activities are supposed to be determined and ordered towards God, alone. And if we keep doing that, we'll get the habit, the appropriate habit, if we act rightly. And acting rightly is when we will that which pleases God, and we subject all our will to Him and will nothing apart from Him. This is to know how to love properly, and for this reason the Savior says, if you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love. So that's the whole deal, I think, is doing things, suffering love, you know, doing things for suffering love, for God, for others. And honestly, it sounds really hard. I'm not gonna lie about that. It doesn't sound easy. But that's it. That's the only way. Like, the system is cooked. If you try to save your life here on earth, you're gonna lose it. But yeah, just gonna keep going and keep trying, keep moving on. But that's all I can do. That's all I think anyone can do. You know? So, that's all.